concept of the ideal healthy meal has undergone a dramatic evolution since the 1970s, and the story behind this transformation is as fascinating as it is complex. But here's where it gets controversial. What we once considered a no-brainer healthy plate is now a topic full of debate and shifting opinions. What caused this change? And what does a truly healthy plate look like today? Professor George Grimble, who grew up as one of 7 siblings in the 1960s, vividly recalls a childhood diet that felt more like wartime rationing than today's abundance. Family meals often included humble dishes like cottage pie, a traditional Sunday roast, or even fish fingers. His parents viewed processed foods skeptically, believing they didn't offer good value, a mindset common at the time. By the mid-1970s, Grimble was embarking on a career in nutrition research at the London School of Hygiene, a vantage point from which he has witnessed how ideas about a balanced plate have shifted over the decades. The 1980s were particularly exciting, he reflects, with groundbreaking research highlighting the critical roles of fish oils, dietary fiber, and short-chain fatty acids. That era really set the stage for many insights we take for granted today. One of the most notable shifts over the past 50 years has been the departure from a simple breakdown of the 3 macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, to a more nuanced understanding of their various types and qualities. However, this journey hasn't been without its wrong turns. For example, the low-fat craze still holds strong in some areas, despite growing evidence for balanced fat consumption. Nicola Ludlam-Rain, a specialist dietitian, sums it up perfectly. Over time, the perfect healthy plate moved from a fixation on low fat and calorie counting toward a focus on high fiber, minimally processed foods, and plant-centric meals. In fact, the biggest evolution in the past 2 decades, according to Ludlam-Rain, author of How Not to Eat Ultra-Processed, is that we now emphasize food quality, fiber content, and protein content, and overall dietary patterns rather than isolating single nutrients. So what did these changes look like, decade by decade? The simple days of the 1970s. Back in 1970s Britain, the archetype of a nutritious meal was straightforward: meat, 2 vegetables, and potatoes. The focus was on a plate rich in protein, starchy carbohydrates, and veg. Hardly any attention was paid to fats, sugars, or portion sizes as we do today. Grimble explains, nutritional adequacy was the priority, a lingering influence from wartime rationing. Meals aimed to supply essential minerals like iodine and calcium, and meet protein requirements of around 55 grams daily for men and 45 grams for women. At that time, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries played a dominant role in directing what the British diet should look like, balancing nutrition with support for local agriculture and food security. This meant meat options skewed toward beef, veal, lamb, and mutton, commonly available and consumed in large quantities, about a pound of red meat per person weekly, which is nearly double today's average. Root vegetables, such as turnips, carrots, and parsnips, alongside potatoes, were staples, a reflection of the influence of wartime habits. Carbs were less distinguished too. White bread was far more common than the whole grain varieties we favor now. Interestingly, despite early research linking saturated fats to heart disease, such as Ansel Keys' 1958 7-country study, public awareness and dietary changes were slow. Lard, supported by ministry recommendations, was still widely used for cooking at home. Things began to pivot mid-decade when medical authorities started issuing cautionary advice. Reports in 1974 and 1976 urged reductions in saturated fat intake and raised concerns about cholesterol, shaping the narrative that fat was the dietary villain. Meanwhile, figures like John Yudkin argued that sugar, not fat, was the greater threat, sparking lively debate within the nutrition community. Chicken, notably leaner and increasingly affordable due to industrial farming methods borrowed from the U.S., began appearing more frequently as a healthier substitute to red meat. Meanwhile, sugar was not yet a major concern. Connections between sugar consumption and heart disease or diabetes were still largely unknown. Low-fat mania of the 1980s. Come the 1980s, the low-fat fever was in full swing. Butter was almost demonized, replaced by margarine, and low-fat, low-calorie products became wildly popular. Think cottage cheese reigning supreme, Rivita crisps, and the advent of brands like Weight Watchers and Lean Cuisine frozen meals, all designed to slash fat content. Yaqub, a professor of nutritional physiology, recalls how cooking fats became a heated topic. She would buy butter ghee for cooking, while her mother had switched to vegetable ghee, deemed healthier. Manufacturers cut calories by removing fat, sometimes replacing it with refined carbs, such as in breakfast cereals, which became a staple morning choice despite their sugar content. Yet while saturated fat was vilified, emerging research also highlighted the benefits of polyunsaturated fats, healthy fats including omega-3s found in fish oils. Grimble notes this was when clinical research began catching on to fish oil's anti-inflammatory properties. A landmark 1989 Lancet study demonstrated that diets rich in fatty fish and fiber, while reducing saturated fat, significantly lowered the risk of recurrent heart attacks in men under 70. Another highlight of the decade was the increased understanding of dietary fiber and its beneficial metabolites, like butyric acid, which has anti-cancer properties by promoting healthy cell differentiation. Beans also gained recognition for their quality protein content. The cholesterol-focused 1990s. During the 1990s, fear of fat intensified. The humble potato was hailed as a health hero thanks to its energy supply via carbohydrates, while fiber garnered attention for its role in reducing cholesterol. Baked beans, rich in soluble fiber, earned a spot on the healthy plate. This era saw the rise of functional foods, such as probiotic drinks like Yakult and fortified cereals. Slim Fast shakes became a fashionable dieting aid. Public health messages stressed cutting back on fat, especially saturated fat, while encouraging starches. Ludlam Rain recalls, "We feared cholesterol from foods like eggs and prawns and often chose low-fat options even if that meant more sugar." Olive oil, championed by celebrity chefs and food shows, found widespread favor as a desirable polyunsaturated fat. The UK introduced its first national food guide, The Balance of Good Health Plate, in 1994. This visual guide divided the diet into 5 groups, emphasizing fruit and vegetables and starchy foods as the largest portions, with smaller sections for dairy, protein, and fat/sugars. Importantly, it was